to the 5 red lights for the Spanish Grand Prix, and away we go. Giovinazzi, not a great start. He's more just looking to try and get out of trouble, but the two McLarens have had an awful getaway. Still, he's going to try and pull a move now on Jolyon Palmer into turn 1. He gets past him, and Esteban Ocon, who I mentioned is on the one-stopper, locks up, and it's another move for Giovinazzi. And here you can see Sebastian Vettel is now up behind Giovinazzi. The German behind him, and he tries to hold him round the outside into turn 1, and that is a lovely defensive move from Giovinazzi. Of course, Giovinazzi's not going to want to make any contact with Vettel if he does want to make friends at Ferrari, so Vettel just sort of sweeps down the inside. Giovinazzi coming across the line for his first non-points finish of the season, but considering he started at the back of the grid in P20, that wasn't too bad at all. What is up, guys, and welcome to round number 6 and 7 of the F1 2017 Road to Ferrari. Yes, in this series now we are going to be doing double episodes. So today we have got the Monaco Grand Prix for round number 6 and the Canadian Grand Prix for round number 7. And yeah, as you can see from the video length, pretty much kept it the same. So yeah, trimming down the practice and qualifying to accommodate for that. But yeah, if you could leave a like, that would be very much appreciated. And also comment below your thoughts on this series so far. And yeah, where you think we're going to finish in today's races. But to start things off, we've got a couple of upgrades on the car, which is always much appreciated. So a front wing main plane for the aerodynamics, which is really good to have before Monaco. And we've also fitted a reduction in gearbox wear, which again is much appreciated, seeing as we had to change our gearbox last time out. But there you can see Giovinazzi has completed all of the practice programs, which gets us back up to 883 resource points. So yeah, nearly enough to go and do another upgrade, so we will do that in Canada. Without further ado, let's get into Monaco qualifying. Arguably one of the most exciting qualifying sessions on the F1 calendar. So it is dry, and it's going to be a dry weekend. And as you can see here, Giovinazzi very much struggling to get to grips with the car. So he's currently sitting in P9 provisionally with just 1.5 minutes to go. But he absolutely nails that chicane. And I have to say, this final sector, or even just the final half of the lap this year on the F1 game, just feels incredible. So flicking it through the swimming pool chicane before now braking into La Rascas, and you'll just be able to see now a snap of oversteer. But going through the final corner, it looks as if Giovinazzi is well up on his previous time after a poor final sector first time out. So that gets him up to P7 provisionally, but after not being able to improve on his final lap, he actually stayed in P7. And then when it simulated the last bit of the session, it puts him down in P15. But yeah, now we're going to have a look at the grid for the Monaco Grand Prix. So it's Vettel and Hamilton on the front row, with Verstappen and Raikkonen in behind. And then in P5, what has happened? So yeah, Giovinazzi in P5, because everybody from downwards of P8 on the grid has a penalty. Whether it's gearbox, whether it's engine related, I don't know. But I'm not going to complain. So Antonio, with by far and away his highest qualifying position, even though he didn't even qualify in P5, he's gone up 10 positions, which is mad. And yeah, the McLaren Hondas are going to be starting directly behind him, as are the two Saubers. So boy oh boy, it's just going to be a massive train here in Monaco. And what better place to score a very good result. So now we see going on to the formation lap, and just taking a look at the comparison between Giovinazzi and Grosjean. So yeah, Giovinazzi again out-qualified by Grosjean, although the Frenchman will be starting behind him on the grid. And there you can see the two possible tyre strategies. It should be a pretty easy one-stopper, starting on the Ultras and going on to the Supers. Obviously, Monaco hardly renowned for its tyre wear, but some drivers may possibly go for the two-stop, you know, if it is a viable strategy. But now we are going to the 5 red lights, starting from P5 here in Monaco. Antonio Giovinazzi, can he get a good start? It is lights out, and away we go here in Monaco, and it is a good start. It's a very poor one from Raikkonen, and will he be able to get him into turn 1? They're going side by side. Giovinazzi gets the inside line, and he is now up into P4 after turn 1. Brilliant, brilliant stuff from the Italian. And there you can see he's right up now behind Max Verstappen. So is he going to be able to make a move? No, he goes a little bit deep into the right-hander. And as now they go through Portier, not Portier, I can't even think what that corner is called, that's Portier's the one before the tunnel, but anyway, going through the Lowe's hairpin now, you can see he's actually settling into a good rhythm at this early stage and managing to stay just behind Max Verstappen. And now as they go through the famous Monaco Tunnel, will he be able to close up on the Dutchman, breaking now into the swimming pool, no, sorry, not the swimming pool chicane, I'm so bad. I'm so bad at corner names, it is unreal. But anyway, now going through to back, I do know the name of that one. So, the Nouvelle chicane, of course it's the Nouvelle chicane. Now it's the swimming pool chicane, flicking the car through there. And as I've already mentioned, this final sector is so rewarding, but a lock up there on the left front is not good whatsoever. So, yeah, he's going to want to just try and keep in touching distance of the Red Bull. But he keeps Kimi Raikkonen behind him for the first lap of the race, and this could be incredible. And to be honest, for the rest of the first stint, not a lot happened. You can see Raikkonen there, and just behind Giovinazzi, but he managed to just about keep enough of a gap so that Raikkonen didn't even really get a sniff of an overtake. You can see Verstappen there, about 2 or 3 seconds up ahead, so really not losing a lot of time. But the reason that Giovinazzi and Raikkonen were completely isolated is because a Sauber and the 2 McLaren Hondas are just holding up the rest of the field. It's absolutely unreal. There you can see Valtteri Bottas, who has been caught up in all of this. And then, behind Bottas, is the other Sauber of Pascal Wehrlein, who is holding up the rest of the field. So this really couldn't have gone better for Giovinazzi. And as we go on to P15, lap 15 now, you can see Kimi Raikkonen coming into the pit lane. So he's going to try for the undercut, and surely he's going to have the pace to get ahead of Giovinazzi, seeing as he was less than a second behind. So fitting the super softs onto the Ferrari car. Surely that is going to be enough because, yes, the undercut isn't too overpowered around here, but just the pace of the Ferrari car should be able to get ahead of the junior Haas car. So, yeah, there you can see him coming out into the field, and he is going to emerge ahead of Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber, so there's going to be no traffic for him, and Giovinazzi just put it onto Rich Mix for this lap just to see whether he could do any damage, but you can already visibly see that he just doesn't have the grip that he had in the early laps of this Grand Prix, and yeah, even Max Verstappen ahead is starting to pull away. So coming now into the pit lane, and this is going to be an important pit stop, but I just feel like it's not going to quite be enough to get ahead of the Ferrari man. So what are the Haas guys going to do? They're going to fit the super softs, and it's a very good pit stop. A sub 3 second pit stop is always good ever since these new regulations have been in place. But there you can see on the left hand side, Kimi Raikkonen emerges out into P4. But to be honest, Giovinazzi can't complain too much, as he is still in P5 with Stoffel Van Dorn in behind in P6 at the moment. But now going on to lap 26, you can see Sergio Perez is now up into P6. And surprise, surprise, Fernando Alonso has retired from this race. So, yeah, not too much of a surprise. But now we go on board with Max Verstappen. You can see he's slowing down on exactly the same lap. And Kimi Raikkonen has gone past him. And there are yellow flags, which means that the Dutchman is slowing. And in the tunnel there, Giovinazzi is just going to go straight past him. Disaster for the Red Bull, man. He just can't catch a break. He broke down in Bahrain, and it is the same case again. You can see on the on the left-hand side on the mini-map, there is already blue flags for the cars just behind me. Sorry, Giovinazzi even. But yeah, going on to lap 28, and through turn 1, he's gone very hot into there, and Giovinazzi has lost quite a considerable amount of the left part of his front wing. So just a little lapse in concentration, and that shows exactly what it can do. But he has a 28-second gap over Sergio Perez. So at this moment, the Haas guys are contemplating even bringing him in for a second pit stop, and indeed they do so. So it's going to be a front wing change for Giovinazzi, but he's going to be on the ultra soft tyres for this final stint, and surely he should just about be able to emerge ahead of Sergio Perez, so they are taking no chances. And of course, around Monaco, if you lose a considerable amount of your front wing, you know, you're prone to, you know, going into the wall again. With 12 laps still left in this Grand Prix, it was a likely possibility that that was going to be the case. So they fit the ultra soft tyres and come out of the pit lane. It was a 9-second pit stop, and there you can see on the mini-map it is Sergio Perez emerging, but is Giovinazzi going to be able to get ahead? He just about does so, and there you can see it was an inspired decision from Haas to bring him into the pit lane. And sure enough, he emerges ahead of Sergio Perez. And that was pretty much it for the rest of the Grand Prix. You can see he kept Sergio Perez probably about 2 to 3 seconds behind him, showing that this Haas car does indeed actually have the pace to take a good result. But who'd have thought it? P4 for Antonio Giovinazzi at Monaco. His best result of his F1 career so far. Brilliant stuff from him. And 12 points in the bag mean that he should get ahead of Romain Grosjean now in the constructors' standings. But it was Sebastian Vettel that took victory around the streets of Monaco, just like the real-life Grand Prix this year. And the Ferrari guys looking very happy after a poor race from him in Canada, and not a great start to the season. There you can see Max Verstappen looking very happy because despite his issues, he recovered to P8, showing what a gap there was to the cars behind. He did in fact get lapped and still finish P8, but there you can see Giovinazzi, one of only 6 drivers not to get lapped in this Grand Prix, with Vettel, Hamilton and Raikkonen making up the podium. But what a Monaco Grand Prix that was. Although there may not have been a lot of action, it was made up by just the bizarre nature of the Grand Prix. So yeah, Giovinazzi skipping ahead of his teammate in the driver's standings up into P9, which yeah, pretty much consolidates the fifth place in the constructors' standings for Haas. So yeah, Williams pretty close up behind now on 37 points, thanks to the exploits of Felipe Massa. Indeed, if Lance Stroll was scoring some points, then it might be a different story. But yeah, Haas just about hanging on in there in P5 as we take a look now at the comparison between the two drivers. So it's 4-2 to Grosjean in both qualifying and the race now, but it is 4-2 to Giovinazzi in terms of fastest lap. So showing that he very much does have that race pace. And if he improves in qualifying, then he should be able to, get ahead of Grosjean. But now getting on to the Canadian Grand Prix for the second race of this afternoon. And yeah, once again, we've got a dry session by the looks of it. And yeah, we've got Chris coming up to us, just, talking to us about the research and development. And yeah, how we are doing in comparison to the other teams. So yeah, you can see just falling behind Toro Rosso at this stage. So yeah, if Haas are going to consolidate their place in the midfield, they're going to have to get back ahead of them. But once again, it was a pretty successful time on the practice programs. Pretty much, yeah, in fact, completing all of them with flying colours. So yeah, going up to 331 resource points because we decided to do an engine upgrade, in fact, today. So that should be in effect for the Austrian Grand Prix. But now going onto the grid for this Canadian Grand Prix, it's an all Mercedes front row and an all Ferrari second row, with an all Red Bull third row, and Massa and Perez making up the fourth row, with Giovinazzi a very good qualifying, I believe his best of the season, and starting in P9, so not quite as good as Monaco, but still a much better performance, and showing that the car does have the pace around here. So yeah, of course the Saubers and the McLarens at the back of the grid, but now getting on to the formation lap, or just before the formation lap, you can see Lewis Hamilton is leading the Drivers' Championship at this stage, and Mercedes just ahead of Ferrari, but it is looking very, very tight at the top. So yeah, getting on to the formation lap. Obviously, we've already pretty much recapped the battle between Giovinazzi and Grosjean, but once again, it's 1-up to Giovinazzi in terms of qualifying. So he is closing in now on Romain Grosjean. But yeah, starting just behind the Force India, I believe, of Esteban Ocon, which should be interesting. And yeah, could be a 2-stop or possibly a 3-stopper this afternoon. But there is some rain forecast for later on in this Grand Prix, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And now, as they line up on the grid, we're going to go to the 5 red lights for the Canadian Grand Prix. Can Giovinazzi get another good result? It is lights out, and away we go here at Montreal, and it is a pretty good start for Giovinazzi, and it is actually Perez that he's starting behind, so he's ahead of Ocon, but Perez trying to go for a move on Massa into turn 1, and Ocon in fact slips down the inside of Giovinazzi, so not a great start for the Italian. He loses one position down into P10, and just sticking behind the Frenchman now as we go through the first sector. Is he going to be able to make a move now? He gets a very good exit off that chicane, and he dives down the inside now into turn 7 and back up into P9. So back where he started, but getting a snap of oversteer there that will not help him whatsoever, and hopefully that isn't the case throughout the course of this afternoon. But there you can see Sergio Perez, in fact, getting ahead of Felipe Massa. So the Brazilian now down in P8. And he will be Giovinazzi's next target as we go towards the end of lap 1. And there's a tangle ahead between the two Red Bull cars and Sergio Perez, which in turn slows down Massa. And Giovinazzi's going to try and go down the inside of Massa. And is he going to be able to make the move? It looks as if he is. And now Max Verstappen also getting involved in the battle. But it looks as if he is just about got the legs at the moment, but Massa trying to come back at Giovinazzi into the first chicane, and yeah, there you can see just about keeping ahead into turns 4 and 5. But now skipping on to lap 3, you can see Max Verstappen doesn't really have the pace this afternoon. And, of course, he does have the Renault engine in the back of his car, whereas Giovinazzi has the more powerful Ferrari engine. So now, hopefully, it should come to fruition, getting onto the DRS, and he goes down the inside of the Dutchman up into P7. And once again, it's just not a good race for Max Verstappen. He's going to have a very, very good you know, end to this race, well, rest of the race, if he is going to be able to score some decent points this afternoon. And the same goes for his teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, who once again doesn't seem to have the pace, and there's just been terrible reliability issues for Red Bull so far. So again, I'm not sure whether it is another reliability issue, but they're just not quick. They're just not quick. Even the Force Indians have got the pace on them this afternoon, by the looks of it, or at least, you know, Sergio Perez. But saying that, now Daniel Ricciardo is looking to make a move on the Mexican, and he does so into the final chicane, which gives Perez an awful exit. So Giovinazzi trying to go around the outside of Sergio Perez into turn 1, which then turns to the inside, and it looks as if he has just about got the move done, but Perez is going to try and do the switchback move, which doesn't quite work, and Giovinazzi up into P6. So what a couple of races this has been, showing that he really does have the pace in this car. So yeah, the thing is, we actually put it up to 100 AI for this race as well, so showing that this Haas car is actually quite quick. But anyway, on to lap 10 now, and Giovinazzi is coming in for his first pit stop of this afternoon. But interestingly enough, the rest of the cars actually carried on, showing that, you know, they may be on slightly different strategies, but going from the supers to the, the ultras to the supers, because the rain is forecast in about 10 laps time. So, yeah, if the crossover period doesn't come, you know, dead on lap 20 or whatever, then those ultra soft tyres will probably, you know, just be starting to wear out. So he decides to go for these super soft tyres and emerges just ahead, fortunately, of Fernando Alonso. But before too long, at the end of lap 11, he's coming up behind the two Sauber cars, and they don't peel off into the pit lane, and neither does anybody. So that shows that a lot of drivers, if not everyone, is possibly trying to go for the one stop this afternoon. But Giovinazzi now dives down the inside of Pascal Wehrlein up into P15, and now is right behind his teammate Marcus Ericsson for 14th position, but of course that should improve as the Grand Prix goes on. And lap 12, or later on in lap 12, surely he's going to dive on down the inside of Ericsson. No, he isn't. He's just going to stay behind and hopefully take the DRS. And that should be quite a wise move, and getting good traction, and doesn't even need Rich Mix to be able to make the move on the Swede. So getting onto the DRS now as Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Giovinazzi moving up into P14 at the end of lap 12 and going through this final chicane very nicely. And looking towards the pit lane, once again there was nobody coming in, and it was in fact till lap 13 that anybody was in the pit lane, one of which is Sebastian Vettel, going to the soft tyres, which is interesting because, yeah, didn't think they'd be used this afternoon, but possibly, you know, on the Ferrari radar, it may be a different case in terms of the rain. But the Haas guys have in fact informed me that rain should be coming in the next 5 minutes. So as the rest of the drivers now come in for their first and possibly only pit stops of the afternoon, you can see that that was the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo getting out ahead of Giovinazzi, who is now stuck behind Jolyon Palmer. And he is just parking his car in the middle of the track, completely hindering Giovinazzi's race. And Giovinazzi surely, no, he can't just make a move down the inside there. He's not going to risk it, and the Brit now is just a hindrance to Giovinazzi. Vettel is up behind him, so he wants to try and pull a gap on Sebastian Vettel and probably put a car between himself and Jolyon Palmer. But there you can just see how slow he is mid-corner, and trying to go now around the outside of Jolyon into this final sector. He does get the DRS, but Palmer squeezes him to the outside. He's already done that in Spain this season. So Jolyon Palmer just being way too aggressive, you have to say. But Giovinazzi fortunately does manage to make his way past Palmer, and Valtteri Bottas there setting the fastest lap. But now on to lap 19, you can see the rain is starting to fall, and Sebastian Vettel now will be trying to surely make a move on Giovinazzi, who will be struggling in these wet conditions. But as he goes now towards the final sector, Vettel is still going to have DRS, although of course it's probably close to being disabled at this point. So you saw Vettel there stick his nose down the inside before the DRS has even been active. But now it's going to be a drag race towards the final corner and, towards the wall of champions. So they're going side by side, but it looks as if Giovinazzi has in fact got the legs, even though Vettel has arguably got a better engine and also the DRS. So that is just bizarre, but not going to complain. Giovinazzi does manage to make the move stick. But now on to lap 21, you can see he's changed the next tyres to the intermediates, because of course that is going to be coming pretty soon. But now coming towards the final corner, Vettel not making the move this time out, but he gets onto the curbing there, and Giovinazzi on the exit curb just spits him out completely, and that is another mistake. You know, he made one in Monaco, but fortunately it didn't come back to bite him too much. But this time it is Sebastian Vettel who gets ahead, and sure enough, on the next lap, Giovinazzi decides to pit onto the intermediate tyres. Jeff said it was just about time to do so, and there you go, DRS has been disabled, which is always a good indicator that the intermediates are the tyres to be on. So yeah, coming out now in P9, but of course Giovinazzi looks as if he's actually the first driver to switch onto the intermediates, with Felipe Massa just behind him there in P10. But now going on to the next lap, that's Lewis Hamilton just coming out ahead. So he has had a bit of a strange strategy and emerging into P5. So I believe Sebastian Vettel actually got ahead of him into P4. But as we get towards lap 35, it was Sergio Perez once again following Giovinazzi home, and it was bordering on full wet conditions at the end of the race. But still a very, very good result for Antonio Giovinazzi, taking P6 and another 8 points on the board. It was Kimi Raikkonen this time taking the victory, so it's 2 Ferrari victories in this episode. But there you can see Sebastian Vettel did in fact jump Lewis Hamilton, who had a very, very poor strategy. But yeah, Daniel Ricciardo getting onto the podium, so very, very good race for him. Although, in the early stages, it didn't look as if he had the pace whatsoever, whereas his teammate was down in P8. So Giovinazzi in P6 there, with his teammate Grosjean in P10. So yet another double points finish for Haas. It is becoming a very regular occurrence this season, which I will not complain about whatsoever. Just the 2 DNFs this afternoon. Lance Stroll in his home Grand Prix couldn't make the checkered flag, which was a disappointment. And Giovinazzi there just, affirming the fact that he wants that #1 driver status ahead of Romain Grosjean. So moving on to 35 points now, which is, quite an achievement considering we've only had 7 races. So he's actually averaging 5 points per race, which is very impressive. And Haas, once again, streaking away in 5th place and, closing up on Force India. But yeah, that just about concludes this double episode. My voice is starting to go. We are 24 minutes into this. But yeah, we're just going to take one final look at the teammate battle. So Giovinazzi getting one over Grosjean in the race this time. So it's now 4-3 to Romain. And once again getting that fastest lap. So it's 5-2 on that count to Giovinazzi. And 32 points to 20, which is very good. But guys, if you have lasted this long, do make sure to leave a like down below. It's been fantastic this episode for Giovinazzi. So yeah, Next time out, we have got Azerbaijan and Austria, I believe. So we should have an engine upgrade then. But until then, guys, do take care. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.